Hello, welcome to Wisdom and Young Legend. And today, again, I have someone that you're going to get to know today that is absolutely fascinating. Marke Freeman. She's a keynote speaker, retired professional basketball player, sports analyst, and she's an outstanding teacher of leadership and skill development who empowers executives, entrepreneurs, students, and athletes worldwide to welcome challenges as opportunities, becoming the captains of their ship. Born into a single parent home on the east side of Springfield, Illinois, Markie has faced many forms of adversity, making them the acme of her testimony. Her story is one of commitment, accountability, perseverance, education, and service, which she refers to as CAPES, because this approach saved her life. So let's get started with her story. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm excited about hearing your story. So tell me, how did you get started, one in sports, or go back to the beginning of how you got involved in developing the personality that you have and getting on the path that you're on?
Yes, so it all started for me at a very, very young age, as young as or as far back as I can remember. I was raised in a house full of boys. And when being a young lady raised in a house full of boys, that comes with many things. One of those things being torture. I was tortured every
Uh,
single day. Uh, and then it also comes with a wealth of experiences, great protection, toughness, and a boldness that a lot of young ladies are introduced to so early. And so I discovered those things right away, and I can credit that to my brothers. They allowed me to tag along with them every day to every park, every gym, to every excursion that they went on. And this is where I developed my love for basketball. They introduced me to it, they put the ball in my hand. And like them, um, there were many things that were going on in our neighborhood that could have very easily distracted us, but we bypassed them because we had a vision and a destination, and that was to get to the basketball court. And so there, uh, having if initially just starting as entertainment and conversation around the TV or the dinner table, and then we would go out on the court and try to imitate some of our favorite players, and that fan turned into a student of the game and developed a passion for development and just growing, and eventually I was given an opportunity to play at the college level, at the Division I level, and then even playing at the professional level as well. But I think that all the skills needed came from those experiences I had with my brothers.
so, as someone who grew up as an only child, I have a couple of angles that I want you to approach at first. One, what is it like actually being a girl amongst siblings or having a large family, period? And then what are some of the sacrifices that you had to make, or did you make, or were there any relative to your being um, among boys?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, first, um, I have to say that there was never a dull moment. I have stories ranging from being put in the dryer, and it was a thrill for us. We all had thrill issues. As you shared earlier, I come from a single parent home, so my mother worked. My mother worked tirelessly, and she would come home and she would tend to us and entertain us and love on us, and then she would go back to work. And so we took care of each other, and so that's something that we we appreciated as well. Nobody was going to get out of line. We all knew the responsibilities that came along with being at home alone. And we took that very seriously from the oldest to the youngest. And so there's stories from putting washing detergent. My mom would kill me if she watches this, but putting washing detergent on the hallway floor and sliding from one end of the house to the bathroom and ramming into the tub and then running back and doing it all over again and getting it cleaned up before my mom came home. So we
And
didn't
she
have
probably wondered why the floors were so clean, right?
yes. So we didn't have video games, but we found ways to entertain ourselves and just enjoy one another's presence. We lived in a very small house. And so all of us shared bedrooms with one or two other people. And so we learned a lot about each other, and we took really good care of each other. And so something else that came along with being in a big family is not being selfish. We were taught not to take the last of anything. We were taught to give before we receive. We were taught to that it's not just about you. And so how you carry yourself, the decisions you make, it's about everyone else as well. And so I learned those very selfless habits early on, being in a family, in a large family.
So, with that being the case, and you come across someone who is the opposite of what you just described, how do you deal with that kind of personality?
The opposite of what I described.
The
Um,
selfish one.
the selfish person, that would probably be one of my greatest challenges, is dealing with someone with selfish intentions, because it's very hard for me to understand considering my upbringing and being now a leader and a business owner, and uh, coming across people who come from that angle. I've had to understand where they're coming from and how that started, and appreciate their angle, and not necessarily agree all the time, but understanding is where it all starts. And so I have family members that are only children, or I have some friends that are only children, who have had their issues understanding me. One of my best friends is actually an only child. Um, but yeah, it first starts with understanding where they're coming from, and understanding why they are the way that they are. And then finding some type of common ground if that is possible. But yeah, it has come with its share of hurdles.
Mm. Now, speaking of hurdles, let's talk sports. How did that play out in school and develop into something so professional?
Gosh, you talk about Cape sports taught me a lot of the things I needed to know to grow into the person I am today. Um, Basketball is not life, but basketball is very much life. Um, I have those basketball enthusiasts, those people that are crazy about the game and they say basketball is life. No, the truth is there's a lot more to life than basketball, but there's a lot more to basketball as than just basketball. There's a lot more life to it as well. And so I've learned just some of the habits that it takes to succeed in any industry, any respected industry. The ridiculous attention to detail required to be successful or reach that rare level of success, the mindset needed to approach certain obstacles that are going to come. As we both know, adversity is inevitable. There's no way around it. It's going to come in many shapes and forms, whether that's the form of failure, maybe not getting into the institution that you want to get into, maybe not getting the job that you feel like you deserve, maybe dealing with some type of politics, um, um, maybe in the form of death, the loss of a loved one. Adversity is going to come. And so finding ways to handle adversity and not react but respond to adverse situations, which is something that I've taken away from the game. Leadership skills, being that player that coaches and teammates can depend on to not make selfish decisions, but do things with the best of the team and heart are in mind. Being someone that's going to speak up and say the right things, being someone that's going to love on, encourage, but also challenge and push others to elevate those within their reach. So many things I've taken from sports. Every scrape, every stitch that I've had, that toughness, that that thick skin that's required to reach a rare level of success. I've taken all of those skills into the corporate space, into um, conference or conferences or conventions, into my consulting, into my leadership as a business owner. um, yeah, is just understanding all the things that we can take from life experiences, whether it's sports or things that we've come across along our journey, and apply it for a greater good.
Now, you mentioned something that we hear often, respond versus react. Give me an example of what you're talking about there. How does that play out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll say it this way. How about this? So when you think about a sickness or an illness and you go to the doctor and they prescribe medication and your body reacts to it, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. That means that the medication is not doing what it's supposed to do. You think of an allergic reaction, that's negative. Um, but when you're prescribed medication and the doctor tells you that your body is responding to it, that means that it's taking to it the way that it should. And so choosing to react is more of an ill-advised decision. If I'm in traffic and someone cuts me off and I react by uh, using an expletive or speeding up on them and saying something that's not good, that's an ill-advised decision. You didn't really think that out. That's not the best thing to do in that situation. But responding, taking a deep breath, choosing to zoom out and evaluate the decision or the situation and make a more ill-advised or educated decision. That's more of a response. I hope that's a great way of explaining it.
It absolutely is, and including your zooming out, to get a big picture of it. That's very descriptive, and I can feel it and see it. So that makes sense. And I love the way you described it in terms of reacting versus responding and the medical part of it. That's pretty cool. Thank you. So continue with your story. What happened when you got into college?
I was fortunate to play college basketball, which was a dream of mine. Knowing how hard my mother worked as a child, I saw my mom go to work from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. managing a CVS, and then 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. working at a home for adults with their share of challenges. And I'm sorry, 12 p.m. to 8 a.m. And so I would see my mom just in time for her to walk me to school. And I would see her once we got out of school and dinner would be made. And then she was off to work. And so something that I've appreciated is just the amount of work that she put in. She showed us exactly what it looked like. She modeled what hard work and success looks like. And I think people's idea of success is somewhat tarnished. They think of success of reaching this goal, whether it's monetary, becoming a millionaire, that's success, or uh, getting a certain amount of followers on social media, that's success. But I would like to say success is determined by not where you are right now, but where you have come from and the amount of people that you've helped along the way. And so seeing my mother make those strides as a single parent, that really influenced me, seeing her model that. And so one of my dreams was to not need her assistance in terms of college and making that decision or getting into school. And so I fought every day for my craft, to just be the best that I could be and earn an academic scholarship. And I was fortunate to earn an academic and athletic scholarship. I got my undergrad and my postgraduate degree paid for. Um, I played at Northern Illinois University, um, and I saw some success on the basketball court, which also allowed me to play professionally. I continued my career overseas. So you can imagine a little girl from the east side of Springfield, Illinois, the side of town everybody would try to avoid, going to Europe and playing professionally. And I never traveled outside of the country up until the moment where I was going to fulfill another dream. And so it was an amazing experience and came with its share of challenges, no doubt, but you can't have the sunshine without the rain, so I wouldn't change any of it.
Look at you. It just occurred to me, little trivia. I grew up in Springfield, Georgia, which is in the
Okay.
backwoods of Georgia, and talking about how far you've come. And I've spoken often with some friends of mine that are around the world, that we grew up in the backwoods of Georgia, that little town called Springfield, and how amazed we are that we were in the woods and have had such full lives, um, and how grounded we are with the principles that were taught to us in that small little community. We have come from a long way. So when you say that, I feel it, because it means quite a bit to me on a personal basis. Because literally, um, I was 1 mile to the nearest paved road.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
but I loved every minute of
you come a long way.
it.
Long way.
So, tell us about professional ball for girls. I mean, that's a rare experience. Most people don't have any clue what you're talking about when you say you played professionally. What does that feel like?
Um, being totally honest, it wasn't something I had shared with people right away. Um, I had my mental shackles coming up, um, not really seeing people do some of the things that I really wanted to do, which was play high level basketball, not seeing a lot of women. The WNBA was not established yet, so it wasn't a thing. And so the only thing that was out there that was publicized and marketed was the NBA. And not seeing any women in the NBA, not seeing women who were not seeing as many women who were as bold as I was and outspoken and so courageous and dreamed as big and just had these big, hairy, audacious goals. Um, I had some mental shackles that I had to break free of. And so,
How
yeah,
did you do that?
yeah, that I had to realize that it would mean traveling a road which was less traveled, and being the first. And I didn't know what trailblazing was at that age, but I just had to realize that I was going to have to do something that some people had never done before, some things that I hadn't seen, and I would have to be the first for many. And it's interesting you say that. I was fortunate to have a really cool conversation with Condoleezza Rice, and she was at university that I was working at for a while. And one of my mentors is a really good friend of hers. They went to Stanford together, and she offered me the opportunity with a very small group of women to just come and chat with Condoleezza when she was here in St. Louis. And one of the things that stood out to me, and she said, you know, somebody has to be the first.
Mhm.
And I wish I had have heard that 20 years prior.
Sure.
Um, she said someone has to be the first. She was asked a question, hey, you're the woman of so many firsts, the first Black woman to do this, the first woman to do this. And she was like, how are you wearing that? And she said, you know, I have my challenges because it wasn't my goal to be just the first Black woman to accomplish or do anything. It was my goal to be the best that I could be at my job. And regardless of where you stand politically, um, um, Condoleezza has knocked down a number of barriers. And she has an amazing story. So I would recommend that people pick up her memoir or just learn a little bit more about her. But she said, you know, someone has to be the first. And that really resonated with me. Being the first, friend of mine was the first to graduate in her family. Um, um, and being the first person in my family or in my community to uh, to play basketball at a high level, and realizing what that means for the people that come after me, realizing the bar that I was setting for those who watched me. I come back home and I realized the energy of my family was slightly different.
Yeah.
My nephews, my siblings, older, looked at me differently, and it wasn't in a bad way at all. It was in a good, like keep doing what you're doing. I'm watching you. You're inspiring me, and it was rewarding to hear people twice my age saying that you have encouraged me in this way. I visited with my mom. I had her come in quarantine with me for about a week when all of this started, and she got to town and she's like, man, you've changed the way I eat. You changed
Oh,
the way I approach certain things. And that's the most rewarding thing that I could have gotten out of any of my experiences, is to uh, shift the trajectory of those around me. Um, and it's truly, being the first is a great gift. It's an amazing gift and something that I didn't see and appreciate early on, but now I understand the power that comes beyond that, and that comes with that, and the impact that can be made. It's the most rewarding thing ever.
hmm. Well, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this question that I normally ask, and that's, what was your breakaway moment? Because I know that you just mentioned your mother and how proud she is of you, but each young person normally have a moment where they just have to step out on their own without destroying the relationship with the parent, but say, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and break that bond for a moment, at least in order to move forward. What was your breakaway moment? And how did you handle it without breaking up the relationship between you and your parents?
Um, Honestly, that wasn't hard for me. My mother is totally different in her approach, um, and how she raised me and my siblings. As I said, I went to Florida A&M University first before transferring back home, and and like many parents, I was only raised by my mother,
Mm.
and so many parents, they want their children to stay close. Okay, go to school close, stay close to home. That's like the only thing they ask for, is stay close. I don't care where you go, as long as it's within a 3 hour radius, right? And so my mother was the exact opposite. My mother said, "Get out of here,
Ah,
get away." And I made a decision. I started considering Florida A&M University, and she said, "Yeah, it's perfect, as far south as you can go before you hit water." Right. And so my mother and her approach, she wanted me to get out and experience. And I would like to think she trusted me enough to make good decisions. My mother is a woman of great faith, and so she's very prayerful. And, you know, she prayed and prayed and prayed and still prays to this day. But she said, "You got to go." And there's a lot going on. You talk about that breakaway moment. I didn't have one of those with my mom, because she's always allowed me to kind of, she allowed me to bump my head a few times. She's like, you know, I don't think you should be doing that. And she allowed me a lot of freedom of choice, especially as I got older, and we would have a lot of conversations. And I would say, well, Mom, I don't think it's that bad. And then boom. And it's like, okay, it's okay. It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. You were right. And so within reason, she allowed me to make some decisions for myself, and that was our relationship. And not to say that she wouldn't check me when it was necessary, or get me back to where I needed to be, but ultimately, ultimately, I think that set me up for my network. I think that was my breaking point, coming up in the community that I was in, you know, women had children, girls had children at a very young age. Um, you would be asked, I think in certain communities, it's known everybody is going to go off to university or they're going to immediately enter a trade. Like, hey, you going to, what are you doing after your senior year? Like that was not, it was not set. It was never set. There were plenty of things going on the way to school and even more on the way from school. And so, my mother giving me that freedom, that autonomy, that allowed me to, when I got to certain situations, say, you know what, this is not for me. And the best thing that I did was probably disconnect myself from certain types of people, certain people that were involved in some other things. Um, and, and I'll be honest, there were some situations that I was close to, but I didn't participate in. I would just be in the room, and it made me uncomfortable. It being in a space with people who were involved in certain things. I was like, man, I understand this is next door to my house, but how can I remove myself from this? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so the best thing, I think, that breaking point was disconnecting myself from people that I thought were family and best friends, and venturing out and being exposed to a whole world. Like I didn't know anything outside of the east side of Springfield, and venturing out and seeing a whole new world, and that just broadened my scope and my idea of who and what I could be. And yeah, and I think that ultimately led to my goals flourishing, or my actions aligning with my vision and my goals. And I'll be honest, there's some people now who, gosh, family members who have told me I've forgotten where I've coming from, or friends that told me I'm different, or you know, things like that that are not so warming. But I understand the ignorance that comes along with that, and I love on them. Uh, but just do it in it's in an appropriate kind of way, in a way that's healthy and best for me. And so, yeah, my breaking point is just understanding my circle and the power of circle. Like even marriage, like understanding who you're involved with determines what you accomplish. Like friends, you know, I'm reading a book called Brand Me right now by a Black author. Her name is Melissa Dawn Simpkins. It's a really short read. And I could have read this book in a day, but I'm finishing it now. I'm in the last probably 15 pages, but she she says, show me your network and I'll show you your net worth. And I don't see that in forms of money. I see that in forms of richness, in the state of mindset and emotion and spirituality. And then, yes, it connects to finances and all of these other things. And so, you know, millionaires hang with millionaires. And so it's important to build your circle with like-minded people that are facing the same direction.
Okay, so you're using terms from a book called Think and Grow Rich. Do you have associations with that?
Yeah, so that's where you and I connected in the mastermind through Think and Go Rich. And so that was this past spring, us reading that book together. That was my first time ever reading that book. But yeah, those are great reminders for anybody that's looking to grow in any industry. Just the importance of circle and what you allow in your space, mentally and physically.
So, did you create a board of directors and who's on it?
Board of directors. Mine has changed a couple times, but yes, I have developed my board of directors. I've had some pretty dope people on my board, but I think one person who has been consistently on my board, I'm gonna take it back a little bit, but I just have this love and appreciation for Barbara Jordan. Um, she was one of the first people that I saw as that young girl that had never really seen women who I felt like carried a lot of the characteristics that I had. And I saw Barbara Jordan speaking, and I can't tell you what she was speaking about. I think it was probably too young to understand, but I was just captivated. And I just said, she speaks with so much power and confidence. And I watch the audience, and I'm a very observant person. So I can figure out a magic trick in a heartbeat because I'm never watching the action. I'm always watching what's going on around it. And so while watching Barbara Jordan, I remember them, it was on television, and I remember them going, panning from her to the crowd. And I just remember watching the expression on everyone's face and just how stuck they were on this woman and her words. And she has a an amazing vocabulary, but that wasn't it. It was how I didn't understand that as a young lady. It was how it made me feel. Mm. And that's it. When it comes to storytelling, when it comes to conversation, when it comes to being a speaker, it's how you make a person feel. It's not always the story. Not everybody's stories align. Not everybody has my story, but how my story makes them feel is what connects us. And so, yeah, that's Barbara Jordan. That's why I would start with Barbara Jordan. Um, Also, my great grandmother. I'm very lucky. I call her Gigi. Very lucky to have been raised around my grandparents and great grandparents, and they were healthy and in their right minds. And so I took advantage of that. I give up a Friday night, Saturday afternoon, any day to kick it on the couch with my grandfather, who who had come to the States from Jamaica. And so kick it on the couch with him and just share conversation and talk sports and talk smack. I would I'd come home from college and not hang out with my friends that were at home and sit down and watch Wheel of Fortune with my great grandmother. Um, or watch the news for the third time that day with my great grandmother, or watch a ball game, or any other shows she watched. Um, I had I had unlimited access to just a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and experience. And
Okay. So hold that thought, because that's the moment that we talk about the name of the show,
okay.
Wisdom and Young Legend. It came about because I heard someone tell an old parable having to do with the young man has the strength to cut the path, but the old man knows the way. And the people that I like having on this show, they have an appreciation for the wisdom of the elders, and they incorporate it in their lives, and they themselves become wiser than their years. And that's what I've been hearing from you. And now it's come out of your mouth that you were wise enough to sit with those people and absorb the goodness of the years that they could share with you. Love it.
Yes, very fortunate. I know not everybody gets that opportunity to share those experiences with their grandparents, great grandparents, to say that uh, had six generations in our family alive and well, and yeah, the I remember the days on the porch. I remember the third of the month where I got my license, and my great grandmother would say, "Hey, take me to the post office so I can send all these money orders and pay my bills." Um, I remember taking them to different places. My great grandmother, my grandmother, and then my probably third cousin, my grandmother's cousin, first cousin, and just hauling them all in the back of my mom's car and driving them all over the place. And during that time, I had a chance to tap into so many conversations. And subconsciously, I think I picked up on some things as well. And it my ability to navigate life or navigate certain challenges I would definitely credit to them and those conversations that they allowed me to be a fly on the wall. I think sometimes they forgot I was how old I was. I never will forget. I never will forget. Um, my grandmother, and I charged to her mind and not her heart. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but she offered me a beer because she had kind of lost track of how old I was. And I told her, I said, Grandma, I'm not old enough yet, but things were different at that time. She was younger, and I think that I just proven myself to be um, a little older, a little beyond my years. But but
I
yes.
had one of those moments as well. Um, I grew up with my grandmother, and my aunts and uncles came home for some occasion, and they were all having a good time as brothers and sisters. And I was supposed to be in the room, right?
Uh-huh.
Being out of the way.
Uh-huh.
And they were drinking stuff. And I came out of the room and somebody proceeded to hide it. And Aunt Jenny said, "Oh, don't hide anything from her. She need to know it ain't about nothing." So she actually let me taste whatever it was they had. And it was the most awful thing I'd ever tasted.
Yeah.
And it destroyed the mystery. It's like,
Yeah.
so yes, I'm a social drinker today, but I'm not enamored with drinking. It's no big deal. It never has been. I've never been tempted to drink more than just a little here and a little there.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that was great for me to be around because once I was fully exposed to it, once I went to university, I wasn't mesmerized, or like I was fully aware of what it was, what it did, and I experienced it enough as far as observation, so it wasn't anything that I had to have because my parents weren't around or it was something everybody else was doing. I'd already had seen enough to know exactly what it was. But yeah, old Milwaukee, I never will forget. That was their thing. I had taken them to the liquor store plenty of times to know what their thing was. But yeah, those experiences uh, groomed me, groomed me in a way to know who I was, what was most important, in being exactly where my feet were. I'm a very present person today because I've been around them. I don't move too fast. I don't think too fast. You can probably tell I don't speak too fast. And it's
Well,
yeah.
you've actually given me a great segue when you say you went from who you were to who you are. So let's talk about what you do today and how you help people today and some of your goals and dreams, and then ultimately how people can get in touch with you.
Yes. So a few of the things that I do. One thing that I'm very, very proud of is my nonprofit. It's the Max Out Foundation. It represents as an acronym for maximizing opportunity, unity, and training. And something that we pride ourselves on is working with inner city kids like myself, and just exposing them to great, what it looks like and what it takes. So we pride ourselves on equipping, empowering, and educating athletes, students, parents, anyone in need, and providing them with different resources. So we have summer enrichment programs which share different things that we offer, whether they need food assistance, clothing, back to school supplies, haircuts, whatever they need. We try to be that resource. We have a STEM program that is offered over the summer. We want to introduce more children to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that's something that we're really, really proud of. And we team up with other organizations in our community to put on a create a transformational experience. I think everybody comes and they want to be a basketball player and not understanding that there are so many amazing things that they could be. And so it's really, really important for kids to see, because you can't be anything you can't see. And so um, that's the focus of the Max Out Foundation. I am a speaker, so I work with different business entities to serve their leadership teams, to serve their associates, and to just instill in them a winning culture. I never will forget when I was first given this opportunity, people started asking me to speak. I'm thinking to myself, what in the world could you guys want me to speak about? And so a good friend of mine now, who just happened to be sitting in an audience where I was connecting with a group of probably 120 athletes, said, hey, I need you to bring this to the Dell campus, and I need you to talk to my leadership team of executives in our LDP program. And about what? Basketball? And he told me, explained to me how those two align, the habits, the mindset, the approach necessary to excel at that rare level we've been discussing, how they align. And I said, okay. And I went and did it, and they asked me to come back again. And since then, I've been working with a number of teams all over the world, groups, organizations, to just really serve them and instill that winning culture and the habits needed to take to elevate their teams, their leadership, and their organizations. Um, I also am a sport analyst, so I am on the sideline of football and basketball games at this time. Uh, Due to this pandemic, I haven't been so active, but I am due to be on a few more sidelines here if things clear up and once the dust settles. But of course, everyone's health and well being is what's most important. But I serve as an analyst. And so, host, analyst, sideline reporter for professional and college games. Um, I also just recently started a podcast and show to make sure that I stay fine tuned as an analyst. It's called Key for Three. So my nickname is Key, and of course you have the play on words as far as basketball. And so we bring different people on the show to share their experiences and share their insight from their angle or from their world, whether it's sports related, some of it is business related. We have sports psychologists on the show to teach people how to, or share with people how to maximize this time of uncertainty and how to stay sharp mentally and physically. Um, and yes, so to answer your question, I pride myself on just using my experiences and my story, my journey to serve anybody in my reach, whether it's people in my community, people in sports, people in corporate spaces, to elevate those around me.
Well, I'm sure you do because this has been an elevating conversation so far. But before we end it, you said something that reminded me of a name. Does the name Jane Kennedy, mean anything to you?
Not right off bat, but that doesn't
Okay.
mean I don't know her because
Um,
you're bringing
in,
her up.
in your industry, I think she was one of those first
Okay.
to do what you do.
Okay. I appreciate that. I have some homework to do.
And now I want to go back and remember exactly what she did too. But I remember she was also a, a very becoming person, and then to break barriers in all kinds of ways, it was just a history stopping moment to realize that a woman did what she did in terms of broadcasting
Mm,
in the sports arena.
yeah. Yeah. I'll have to do my research, and you can trust that my actions are greater than my words. But yeah, I'll check her out. I pride myself on knowing who came before and who paved that way.
Yeah. All right. So anything else you would like to say that maybe I didn't ask so far?
I realized I didn't answer your question fully, your last question. So something I'm really, really proud of. I know I shared this with you. It's near and dear to my heart. I'm writing my first book.
Oh,
So, yes, and so it hasn't titled itself just yet, but it's a playbook for athletes and professionals. As I said, those worlds align in many ways, and so I am so proud of this and how it's coming out. It's been a long project. But I am confident that it will serve the group that it's supposed to serve. So you guys can look out for that. As again, I just want to be that resource and really exhaust all of my resources. But yeah, I'm on social media at Markie Free, or you can go to my website, markiefreemanmedia.com.
Great, great, great. And when you mentioned that to me, that you were writing this book and the nature of what you're writing, it reminded me of my generation's book of a similar nature, and it's called The Games Mother Never Taught You. And working in corporate America, we needed to know how to navigate within a male dominated world
Mm-hmm.
where sports ruled, and some of us had no idea what sports were all about, especially back in the backwoods of Georgia. Somebody sent me some roller skates, and what do you do with roller skates on dirt? And there's no basketball court. There's nothing back there. So learning the lingo, learning the mindset was pretty important to us back then. And now I I think your timing is excellent because it's another generation, many generations later probably, that now need to hear an updated version of how to navigate this world
Mm-hmm.
in a sports dominated mindset.
I appreciate your words of encouragement and affirmation. I yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I make sure that I'm even in the right state when writing it, because I want it to be less of me and more of him, and yeah, I can't wait for this to be complete, this project to be released.
All right. And when you do, come back and let's talk about it in great detail.
It sounds great. I look forward to that as well.
All right. Okay. So thank you again. And to our audience, wasn't she wonderful? And what a great story and how inspirational, giving you something to think about. So until next week, have a great day. Take care.